Hello, everyone, and welcome to our first Core Dev call for 2024. It is, Thursday, 18th January 2024, and it's around 7:04 p.m. from this part of the world. We have a number of items to cover today. Jennifer will kickstart our conversations today, discussing the F09 mining reserve actor, and then Caitlin will take over from her to talk about core devs and core devs participation briefly. And after that, she would jump in to discuss FIP1 V2 updates, and then hand that over back to Jennifer to just prime us on NV22 Dragon updates. And then we close. And without further ado, I can hand this over to Jennifer. Over to you.
Yeah, it will be quick. I opened a FIP that's very small. The only change it's proposing is that the Filecoin network, when we launch it, there's some like reserved fund, just to make sure that in the future, if we have other use cases or network key stakeholders, for example, retrieval miners joining the network and they deserve to be incentivized by block rewards, we have a pool of funding reserved for those kind of purpose. Right now, those funds are holding at address F0990. The account type is actually a multi-sig. Well, a multi-sig is where you have a couple signers of a account, and there's a approval threshold of each multi-sig, and when the signer of a transaction that meets the threshold of the multi-sig, the transaction will be approved. So a lot of time, it's a kind of the wallet that allows multiple people to managing the funds towards that. So right now, the Filecoin mining reserve multi-sig has like 3 signers. And the threshold is 2. What I'm proposing here is to convert the account from the multi-sig to a regular account address that doesn't have any keys, almost like the Bernie account F099. What that it does means there's no single key owner can move the funds from the network unless there's a protocol change that's being proposed and introduced via FIP and being triggered by a network upgrade. I believe with this, first is like all the protocol changes should be proposed via FIP. That's the governance process we have for the Filecoin network. It also reduces the potential security risk of like, when you have human in the process and like they're holding the keys, there are chances their keys getting compromised and so on and so forth, and then malicious actor may moving the network funds towards something that the funds are not intended to be using. All in all, that's why I propose this FIP. It's a quick, simple FIP. I believe they got. Oh, I accidentally already merged it the other day. However, I haven't got a FIP number just yet. I did have a couple great peer feedback. I already addressed. I'm hoping to get a FIP number soon. I also got some feedback from the community that are mostly very supportive. And also, I consulted with the founding team back in the days, like why you're sleeping, how does he think about this idea? He also thinks it's a good proposal. So all in all, I think it moves the network towards a good direction, and I'm hoping to drive this FIP to the last call soon and hopefully include it in the next upgrade, not NV22, but the one after. That's it.
Thank you. Jennifer, quick question. This is the one that you flagged for last call, right? I believe it's FIP 84 now, correct?
No, that's a different one.
Okay, I just wanted to be sure because I got your ping for 1 FIP to be in last call, but I can't remember that now. Okay. Do we have questions for Jennifer or comments?
Hello. Yeah, this is Steven. Okay, I support this the proposal very much. It's because I think it's a right move for Filecoin to be more decentralized. It's because that this reserve actually controlled by the key holders before. We have this move, and we will allow the community team, the whole community to decide when and how to use this reserve. Where protocol change and actually with the consensus of the community. So we also think that we could burn this reserve actually, and that is really supported by many people in this community. But I agree with Jennifer. That will be another story, and that could be discussed separately. For the core team members, you need to say this is actually have some consensus in the whole community. Some other people may take some actions on this, so you will pay some attention on this in the future. Thanks.
Thank you. Are there additional comments or questions before we move on? Okay. I believe it's now over to you, Caitlin.
Sure. And sorry for those of you who've joined, my camera is actually broken, so I'm going to stay off. I didn't have anything I wanted to type up on this slide, but more of just a reminder, especially for folks who may watch this meeting recording afterwards. Lots of changes right now in the ecosystem, folks coming in, going out, and moving to different teams and work interests. For core devs specifically, though, just a reminder that the intent of this group was always to serve as sort of an open source community working group. If there's things that you need from this group, if, for example, the balance of participants is shifting and this time doesn't work well for everyone, we can change it. If there's communication standards that are changing and Slack is no longer the place where most people are getting their updates, we can update that. Just a reminder to take the initiative to let us know when something needs to change and we can help facilitate it. And likewise, for folks you may work with or who may already be core devs who are moving off of teams, into teams, whatever it may be. If you or someone that you also work with, you think no longer should be in this group because they are changing their priorities, or someone new is coming in that you think should be added to the group, let us know and we can reach out. The regime for the past couple of months has been on having really loose expectations and standards for folks who join, other than consent by other members. So please help us make sure that we maintain a robust meeting agenda and list of participants, even as your teams may be changing, whatever it is. That's it. And I think next slide and next topic, unless someone has questions about this. Cool, no questions. Great, so I'm really excited actually to get to talk about this. FIP 1v2, the proposed reform to the FIP process, what is happening here and what sort of the immediate next steps are going to look like. So as is typical with projects on this scale, there has been a delay. We hit our original goal of having the initial PR opened by mid-October to correspond with the 3rd mainnet anniversary of the Filecoin network. But our goal at the time was to have this entire process and proposal resolved by the end of December. That was always an optimistic goal, and we unfortunately have not hit it because of some changing dependencies and sort of unforeseen effects. And now that we are entering into January, I want to change the way, or rather explain a bit more about how I am changing my approach to this workflow, just so that it's a little bit more transparent to others who may be observing this process or have questions, okay? So if you could go to the next slide, Lucky. This is a big table. We don't need to read everything, but this outlines the 6 highest order deliverables that are proposed as part of FIP 1v2. So back this past summer, when I got Filecoin Foundation to agree to provide resources for this, including my time, these were the things that were agreed to. And this is the status of all of these items and where they currently stand. When I talk about needing to change this workflow and the way that we are communicating around it, I want to specifically zoom in on this first work product, which is the FIP 1v2 PR, right? The actual policy document that proposes replacing our current FIP 1, okay? The intended goal was that we would release this as soon as we had it, which we did, and that all of the community feedback and comments would drive iteration towards a final product. We got lots of comments, many from core devs, in fact, all of which raised really salient requests for changes. Many of them are still unresolved, which I'm very aware of. And at this point, at this point in time, the idea was that we would be able to sort of negotiate or take that community feedback, make those incremental changes, feed in these other big pieces that would support the functioning of what was proposed in this policy, and this would get us to a final outcome place. Unfortunately, that is just not how work is progressing. And so what we're trying to do now is to finalize the implementation details of this PR first, and then actually finalize the FIP last. We are taking the intended workflow and we are flipping it from what it was initially intended, and also from what we usually advise for most people authoring FIPs, okay? The thing that is causing us to do this specifically is this third work product, right? The on-chain voting tool that we are working to develop for the Filecoin network. We always knew that on-chain voting for Filecoin was going to be very difficult to do because of the role that the Filecoin token in particular plays as a utility on the network. And because of the structure of the Filecoin economy and the Filecoin ecosystem and the way that different participants signal their participation on chain. We are working with an ecosystem partner to build this tooling. The spec has been public. There is active work happening there. We have working group meetings once a month that are separate from this, that have always been open and recorded for folks to join, where we are trying to resolve some of the spec questions and implementation details of this. But unfortunately, it's come to be that it is not possible for us to finalize the policy unless the actual terms of one of its biggest technical pieces have been confirmed first. And so this is where all of our work is currently being focused. In addition, right below it, this Filecoin Community Guild. This is really referring to a new body of community experts, decentralizing the function of overseeing FIPs from core devs, although not away from core devs. We still want core devs to be included. To make it a little bit more codified, a little easier to interpret, and also just a little bit more inclusive of different roles and experts that do exist in this ecosystem. To do this, it means providing more capacity for community structures, community working groups, and just community resources in general. And unfortunately, we're having to do that at a time where the community is changing drastically in lots of different ways. So the other piece of ongoing work at this point in time is really building out that structure and trying to put resources towards supporting this sustainably over the long term. And again, it's taking a long time, unfortunately. However, once these pieces are resolved, it will be easier for us to, again, move into public test phases and get to a place where we say we understand how this is working and how it's intended, and we're now ready to reflect this in the FIP that we ultimately want final consideration on from the broader community. Okay. Next slide. All right, so simply speaking, because there's a lot of components here and a lot of things going on, especially a lot of work, not all of which is always easily visible. We are effectively taking our initial workflow and we are flipping it on its head, right? So the focus now for us at this current moment is to finalize and beta test what will become the implementation for FIP 1v2, right? This is building capacity for a functional guild by establishing new working groups and working with existing community groups to structure that. Deliver a complete on-chain voting tool that we can publicly test, and resolve outstanding issues about information ownership and management, right? This is a surprising issue we didn't expect to encounter, but we're building all of these tools and we need to know where we're going to host these interfaces and how we're going to govern their maintenance as well. My goal right now is for all of this to be resolved by the end of February so that we can move into this public test period, okay? This means rolling out testing for Metropolis, which is a sentiment analysis tool that we want to support and are frankly on track to having complete very soon, as well as on-chain voting, which is the thing that a lot of people are most interested in, okay? We want to have a public test period for FIP 1v2 processes generally to understand what this workload will feel like, especially for FIP editors and core devs who are reviewing FIP still. And we want to begin to organize the guild structure with representative groups to understand how folks are actually going to interact in real time, okay? This, of course, will overlap again with us actually finalizing that policy documentation, which is now going to be sort of the last piece of the puzzle, okay? Next slide. Oh, thank you. So for core devs, right, what does this mean? Ways to participate have not changed, although the emphasis perhaps has a little bit. So if this is something that's of interest to you, or you have questions about really whatever it is, you can join our monthly governance calls. You can review the on-chain tooling spec. Previously, I had asked that you add comments in the discussion thread and on the PR itself. You can still do that. The same level of scrutiny as applies to all FIPs still applies to this one. If you have an unresolved comment, George, I think you have several and all of them raise very salient points. They will all be addressed before we ask to move to last call, of course. But right now, again, we're trying to finalize tooling, trying to finalize these implementation details. And for those who really want to provide feedback or guidance, this is where I'm going to ask you to direct yourselves. You can also ask questions in the FilGov channel. And also, again, help us drive improvements in how core devs operates. It's directly related to this. Core devs maintain a really critical role in the FIPS process, doing technical reviews. We want core devs to participate in this community guild, overseeing crypto economic and governance steps in the future. And making sure this group is useful and highly functional is a key way of doing that. That being said, again, this is a huge piece of work. There's lots of challenges right now affecting this work, and we still need to review and approve and manage FIPS as this is ongoing, okay? We understand this, and as always, collaboration is the way through it, so let us know what you need. Lucky in particular has been taking the lead on all sort of active FIPS management and maintenance, but I'm also here as well if you need to provide feedback or ask for additional assistance. FIP 1v2 has a lot of pieces to it. It's a behemoth of a thing to change a governing system for an ecosystem like this one. And different folks want different things in different ways. Frankly, being the only person primarily working on this, I have deprioritized some of the more marketing and communication sides of this with a preference towards actually getting the products across the finish line on schedule and completely. But if you feel you need more information or that you want it, I'm happy to work with you to get it. If you want notices in channels more regularly, we can do that. But again, I first suggest that folks do come to these governance calls because they are working meetings and it's the most consistent and pragmatic way to get involved. And lastly, FIP 1v2 is designed to give us a better foundation for governance, not to be a perfect system. Still lots of kinks to work out, and that's going to remain true over time, especially if this ends up being a system that we adopt and implement. And I hope that by the end of March, we get to a place where there is significant completeness and we can begin to look towards that last call process and what additional feedback at that point means for modifying this system. I will stop there. Again, we have sort of a light group today, but if there's any questions, I'm happy to take them. Jennifer, you have a hand up?
Yeah, not necessary questions, but like more like a couple comments. First, like thank you for working on this. This is like definitely a huge piece of work. That's very important for the network to progress in the future. So thank you for working on that. So first, like a couple of questions on this particular slide. So, I mean, help driving the improvements in how core dev operate. I believe last year at one point, we did have a new discussion on like what exactly is core dev's role? Like what's the responsibilities, like who is like qualified to be considered as like core dev? As you mentioned that like seems like core dev is going to be having a special consideration within the whole guild that when it comes they will have like certain like voting rights on controversial or like certain FIPS, right? So it makes that whoever is in core devs, like what kind of the contribution, what kind of the knowledge they have over Filecoin makes like become like more and more important. I'm just not sure if the current, who can join, who is treated as like core dev is like is standardized enough for the whole group to take in that important role. Like one thing I have like mentioned a couple times privately to you or publicly is that I feel like one of the main goal for core dev is like provide technical reviews over the FIPS new proposals that's coming to the network, right? Because we're evolving the Filecoin protocol here. However, the peer review, technical peer review engagement is really, really low. You can always see maybe less than 10 people in the core dev, like constantly engaging in the FIP, and that's kind of like rate limited. I don't have a concrete suggestion on like how can we like solve this problem. However, I do feel like it's very important problem to solve before we accept, move towards the whole guild and different process, right? Because again, the scope has changed. So that's first. The second one, thank you for calling out the, I was going to like ask how are we gonna do FIPS while the whole thing is going. So the first thing you're saying is like, hey, we need to continue to review FIPS. One thing here is like, it also seems like we're very rate limited by FIP editors right now. I feel like we're trying to do a better job. Like, George joined the effort. Thank you so much. Picking up a lot of the things. A-North is always there. He always nudged me to prioritize review FIPS, so I'm trying to do a better job as well. So Kathleen, you too. But like still, it's like we probably can use more people, but like also we probably should think about like why the FIP editors are not responsive enough or have like such delays sometimes. Maybe we're lack of a incentive system for FIP editors in a way. So I feel like that is one thing that Filecoin Foundation or the governance team can consider is like, can we coming up some incentive system for FIP editors to do this line of work, right? I kind of agree this is public good work. However, I do want to call out there are just a lot of public good work that many of the FIP editors has like responsibility over. So driving more incentives so that we can recruit more people, the right people, especially to do this work will be really nice. Also, like maybe implement some like ChatGPT automation tooling can be cool, right? Because like the first pass will be like grammar and things like that. Maybe we can invest in some toolings for the first draft. So the manual workload is like less and easier for FIP editors to participate. Last but not least on this slide, you mentioned that right now, so like Lucky is taking a lot of the heavy lifting on managing core dev and the FIPS and so on and so forth, and you are currently the only resource working on revising our FIP process and like implementing all the tools, managing the project, managing the partnership. This is like a huge project. If I treat this as an engineering project, I won't just put one person on that. So I'm wondering, is it possible for, and we can see it's very important to the whole community because like we can simply see how many comments and reviews we got in the FIP discussion, right? Like, the PR. Many people has like a lot of opinions. We need to like digest and like iterate over time. So like myself as a community member, I want to ask Filecoin Foundation, not you guys, but Filecoin Foundation on whether we can allocate more resources towards this effort so that we can make progress faster. the sooner we have a better governance pipeline, the better we can evolve the network protocol, and the faster we can drive in good changes to the network so that we can improve the whole project. So, yeah, that's that.
Yeah. Thank you, Jennifer. Yeah, so going one by one. First thing, for core devs providing technical reviews, this is a long-standing challenge. Right now, it's really only FIP editors that are doing technical reviews, unless you see other core devs who are only participating in reviewing implementations. Whether an incentive is the right thing or not is a good question. I've had discussions, I think you and I have discussed this one-on-one. I've had discussions within the foundation about this, also seeing if we can include this as like a bounty structure or what other ways of managing this may be a little bit more useful. I think the challenge here right now, right, is that there's actually, it's not the absence of an incentive, it's just that previous incentives are changing. So we've always had this tension where Filecoin is designed and built to be an open source community and ecosystem, where, you know, things do tend to move slower, right? Although as they mature, they can structure and there's efficiencies to be gained. But at the same time, also a lot of the folks working full-time, especially on protocol issues, were full-time staff somewhere and were able to help, right? It became part of their jobs. As that shifts or changes, right, it's hard. And also folks oftentimes, you know, they join core devs because they have relevant expertise, but it's still an ask on their time. We have also tried in the past to make participation in the core devs group more structured, right? So we want to account and say, you must attend at least these many meetings to be current, et cetera. And at the time, that was an idea. We did put it into practice, but a lot of current members didn't like it, right? They wanted there to be more people here for discussions, rather than a lot of rules that they had to meet or expectations that they had to meet in order to remain in the group, because they figured they would just lose members. So we can reconsider it, but it's hard to get people to, yeah, participate in this way unless we require it. Next thing, we're rate limited by FIP editors. This is totally true. Yeah, folks have a lot of work that goes for everyone. Yes, you can push and you can ping, but we all get pushes and pings in a lot of the same ways. They're lucky if we can work together and reach out and see if there's other folks who want to come and join as FIP editors. But it suffers from the same incentive problem, right? Of even if they are really qualified and really good at reviewing technically, it is still an extra ask on their workload, and we have to make sure that we manage those expectations appropriately. And as far as investment from FF goes, I mean, I'm with you. When we scoped this project, we were going to grow, both in terms of full-time staff working on our team permanently, as well as contractors to help. And unfortunately, we've gone through several rounds of budget cuts, which also take a lot of time, and we have lost those resources. It's one of the reasons why I am trying to flip this workflow to make it more actionable, right? I will send your comments to the rest of the Filecoin Foundation. I hope they are heard. Lucky, we would love it. But yeah, I don't know if that's going to be possible in the near term, just based on what's available to us right now. So, George?
Yeah, I mean, well, let me just, there's a bunch of hands which I assume are related to this topic, so I'll restrict my comments to the present topic as well. So I do think the question of incentives is interesting. It doesn't need to be anything major, but it seems like this is the example for everything, or the solution to everything these days. But something like, you know, the Ethereum Protocol Guild that actually, you know, keeps a registry of people's contributions over time, a weighted registry, right, of how much people contribute, and allows the community in general to make a donation that then gets split. I think that might be a good thing to explore. And again, it's not about absolute numbers being gigantic, because, you know, people do this, you know, it's partly a labor of love and partly because it's related to their other responsibilities. But it may help with attracting more people, and I think that would be that would be helpful, definitely, especially because, you know, realistically, we might lose some people over the next few months, right? It depends.
Yeah.
I don't think everyone is going to stay in the community. So we'll see how that goes, but we wouldn't want to overload 2 or 3 people, as is almost the case these days. I have more comments, but I'll let the other hands first and then.
Yeah, we're also light on numbers, so I'm happy if we can manage it with cameras off for folks just to jump in. I think Jenny, you're next in line.
I'm about to say something like maybe controversial, but like I have a legit question.
Yep.
You mentioned that like a lot of the things are slowing down because, you know, cutting down the budget and so on and so forth. I asked in other forum as well. I know other committee members has been wondering. So like, where is kind of curious, like where's the Filecoin Foundation allocating the budget, allocating the block, the fundings they are getting from the network? Just because, in my humble opinion, this is one of the critical initiatives that the governance team is taking on for the network. Is critical for the project progression. And if we are cutting down the budget over here, which I'm pretty sure there's a lot of other things to balance out, it will be interesting to get a very transparent financial report from the Filecoin Foundation so that we can also understand, oh, there maybe are other initiatives, other priorities that Filecoin Foundation is allocating the budget towards, so to help the network growth, right? That just helps us to better understanding why we are having lower budget on the governance project, which seems to be slowing a lot of things down.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, from within my like part of the foundation. Actually, so yeah, we had talked about this today too. So I had reached out and pushed on this for you. Frankly, a big piece of it is that I lost a lot of budget. I lost a bunch of staff that we were hoping to onboard, right? It's a really difficult process, and it's also not one that's unique to the foundation. Lots of folks are going through this right now. At the foundation, budgets for all of this work was just cut across the board. And it's not because this work is less valuable. I really don't get the sense that that's true. It's just that there are less resources available right now. And I think it's complicated as to why that is, how like the foundation's funding vests, how its endowment works, and also how it gets to choose to spend money, right? There's a board and there's like a management committee and they get to make these decisions. And I think it's a complicated structure. But I did ask today, I've long been a proponent of a public report. And I think end of January, they're on track to release one. And I hope that's true. I hope it's helpful, but it doesn't change sort of the brass tacks of like what is available to us, and having to organize resources beyond financial ones in order to get this through. A lot of us have worked on other open source projects like this before, and it's one of the unfortunate trade-offs of like being in a decentralized ecosystem. Yeah, I would love if we had more resources. I think this is a huge priority, right? This is why I do this work. But it's difficult to do as one person. So I don't know what to say. We've advocated for getting more resources, but when they simply aren't there, we can't just make them appear. So unless we want to start looking for outside funding to support this work, which seems just like a distraction, frankly. Yeah, I don't know.
It's more like a comment. So thank you for sharing the insight about Filecoin Foundation, because a lot of people assume I talk to Foundation a lot. I do talk to some members when it's like about the upgrade, about implementations and security program and so on and so forth. However, as community member, we have very little visibility into how Filecoin Foundation is like operating, right? That's why these questions are coming from. Definitely not like suggesting anything that governance team is not doing. I left a comment in the chat, and George said +1 as well. It's like it will be helpful for us to. I don't think this is the right forum to discuss about Filecoin Foundation matters, but that's why I think if we can have a Filecoin Foundation AMA, where we can just not just we, but also the community can just ask questions. I think that could be very, very useful in a way, just to just to build a little bit more closer relationship between the foundation and the community. Just a comment, feedback, if you can route back for the foundation, that would be awesome.
Yeah, sure. Stephen, do you have a hand?
Okay. I think you have discussed many things about this so I just want to present my opinion about the core protocol is because I think that the protocol labs is was actually managing and governing the core protocol development and design implementation. By right now, we know that protocol labs actually is doing restructuring, and we have these people really fully funded by protocol labs in the future. And so I was thinking that all of this part will be taken over by the Filecoin Foundation. Okay, that means that I think the Filecoin Foundation will be responsible for the core protocol involvement, improvement and so on. So we need to have some more professional advanced engineers to join us, and to make sure that we have the core part, the fundamental part of the Filecoin, to be very good for the ecosystem growing up. Right now, I really want to say that the Filecoin Foundation have more investment into this part, because as a decentralized blockchain project, I think the most important part is the fundamental layer, right? If we have the right and very good fundamental layer, I mean the core protocol, and the ecosystem can grow up by itself, is because the community will develop their applications based on this. If we don't have a very good core protocol, the fundamental layer, and the people will just leave. Okay, so I think this is very important. I know that there are there are thousands of people in the Filecoin Foundation, but we just have very few resources. Focus on this is it's not a very good structure. I think just as you already mentioned this. So we should think about this and actually have more discussion with the Filecoin Foundation leadership team to say because for me, I always think that if we have a very strong robustly easy to use the layer one implementation, and for others we could they will much easier to develop. For example, the data onboarding, we have so many resources put into the data onboarding. That doesn't work if we don't have a very good layer one. Okay.
So I think this idea reflects this idea that if we invest in one place, there are multipliers outwards in other arenas, and that is how we will create value. This is the same logic that inspired the creation of the foundation in the first place. And also, I think Jennifer's right. I don't want this forum to just turn into like questions about this. I think these questions are good and useful. I think there are changes I personally would like to see with the foundation, but also I can't answer them or speak to them. I am staff there, and so I have some insight on how things work. But I don't lead the foundation, so I can't really answer or address these concerns for you. What I do know, as someone who gets to set a budget at the foundation as a staff member, is that, the Filecoin ecosystem is massive, both in terms of currently scoped and ongoing work, and also in what it intends to do. The foundation is one entity, It has a broad mandate, and it has like a very set number of resources. And again, there are controls on how those resources, how money in particular, is distributed and able to be used. Yeah, I mean, we're at a time in the ecosystem where lots of folks are changing up what they're doing to try and make it more effective and more efficient, to reallocate those resources. And part of the difficulty of a contraction like that is that sometimes we get used to setting expectations for a certain threshold of efficiency. And when that changes, it can be hard to adapt to. So again, we are making those adaptations here because of what we do have immediately available to us, because the most immediate priority is that work that needs to get done gets done in the best way possible with what we have now. And again, I think I will pass the message to do an AMA. I think also at a lot of the recent like in-person events, they've done AMAs. I don't know, I don't go to them because I work there. We can do this. Again, I checked just today, the comms team and annual report is due at the end of the month. I hope these things help. And in the meantime, also, like other contributors from this ecosystem are also welcome to plug into this work. I would take that contribution at any point in time. I think one final hand. Oh, we still have 15 minutes. George, do you still have a comment or question?
Yeah, I do. I mean, this is actually about the FIFA 1v2 and your updated plan and timeline, right? I mean, first of all, I mean, thank you for doing this. I mean, it is frustrating that it's taking this long, but I understand the reasons, and I really appreciate it. I think this is essential, right? I mean, we need this as a community to move forward. I think my observation is that, from reading the discussion, from seeing the feedback, my intuition is that the vast majority of feedback is largely uncontroversial, right? I mean, I don't see a lot of conflict in what different people are saying. So I expect that a lot of the adjustments will be easy to make. I also expect that there will be like 3 or 4 issues that will actually be contentious and that may take longer to resolve, right? So my flag here is just that, once we start working through those, and like I've expressed one that I think is fatal in my view. I think other people will have their own red lines, but I do think there will be like a handful, or even not that, but a handful of things that will not be resolved in 3 days, right? So let's just keep that in mind, and let's either try to start that discussion early, or just afford enough time for it to then be resolved, which might not be 2 weeks at the end of the testing.
Oh, sure. Yeah, no, that's a great flag, right? So first of all, with the idea of this testing period, or like going through last call, the hope is that, first of all, we know where these contours of disagreement are going to be. And the hope is that by the time we get there, right, there's nothing that's going to have changed so drastically that folks feel they need to reconsider it if they have already otherwise plugged in, right? But there should be no huge structural shift that shocks folks. But what we will have instead, again, are those implementation details to say, this is what we intend, this is how we want it to work. This is sort of the point of first principles that we are leading with. And this is in practice, like what we have as a result of that. Again, I don't know if it's going to dissuade or dissuade people from coming out and having a hard line against what we are proposing, or if it's how it's going to affect actual community sentiment. And frankly, the reason why we wanted to front load all of the actual like FIP PR stuff is to avoid that from happening, right? I don't want to get to last call and have a bunch of, fundamentally unaddressable disagreements. And then we feel like we can't make progress, right? Because we need to change the way that FIPs are managed right now. And this is sort of the compromise pathway that, again, gets us to a better foundation, I think. So we will see. If I do wonder if we take, I've thought back and forth before about whether we take those things we know are going to be controversial, right? The specification of voting, the way that the guild works and the structure of the guild, and perhaps some other like comments and pieces about FIP editors, et cetera, and open them as separate discussion posts. I frankly don't have a great sense at this point in time whether doing that is going to be a better way to address actual comments and concerns, or if it's just going to entrench folks' opposition to certain things that have become sort of integral parts of this. Anything like this is so big, there's always going to be trade-offs, and a certain amount of this is going to have to be kind of a leap of faith. And the big catch-22 that's always been present is that we need these changes in order to be able to make changes of this size. That's always been the problem, and I hope we can find a productive way through it when we get there. But to your initial point about like some, small changes, George, I actually was thinking of yours when I mentioned that they remain unresolved. You're right, they're small things that can be incorporated. I read them when they come in and leave them unresolved so that they can be incorporated. But unless I've commented and said otherwise, I broadly agree with what folks are asking for. A lot of this exercise is really just about benchmarking a trade-off until we actually get some information to guide iteration. And so I'm personally very flexible in incorporating folks' requests. I think specifically, George, about the one you left about the decision matrix for the guild and feeling like major outlier scenarios should just automatically lead to rejection. That is a fine and fair suggestion to make, and I fully expect that we can just make that change and go forward with it. So for things that are outstanding, don't worry about them. I'm worrying about the big stuff, and that's why we're trying to do it first. And then it's done.
Let's hope so, yes.
Yeah. Anyone else? Also, I just as a personal note, like again, we're all really busy. We all get a million like pings and across a million different platforms all day long. Try and make as much of this as public as possible, but it's just not always very useful to do so, or just not always super visible. If you ever have any concerns or needs about current FIPS process, again, I'm one person, but I am very, very malleable to pressure, frankly. So if you have an issue, you have a challenge, just do let me know. Again, communication in the ecosystem, I think, is changing a little bit right now as teams are changing. But always feel free just to DM me or just tag me a million times in a public channel. That works too. Usually. All right.
Be careful what you wish for there, Caitlin. But
Yeah.
That's fine. Thank you so much. Do we have additional questions or comments? We have just about 8 minutes to wrap up. Otherwise, it's Dragon Time by Jennifer.
And I will be quick. I believe Lucky proposed the name for this upgrade. It's Dragon. I think it's
It's
because
Caitlin, actually, not me.
it's Caitlin.
Yeah.
I think it's Dragon in China, Asia, who does like lunar year things. So yes, the first upgrade in 2024 is coming, codename Dragon. Oh my God. Can we go back to the slide? It's coming, and we are introducing some personally, I'm very excited about this upgrade, actually a lot, just because we're having a couple FIPS that really brings changes to the network. The first one is switching to a new DRAM network. It's a long time coming. We got the DRAM network, they have been running the new QuickNet for a while now, and there's amazing features, including like faster run times, different like random chains, and so on so forth, like encrypted like chain stuff. Very, very cool. But also at one point, the LOEs of a DRAM network, they are going to deprecating the existing DRAM network that's powering Filecoin, and that will be a huge risk to us if we cannot get randomness efficiently from the network. So we are hoping to switch to their latest one as soon as possible, and it's finally coming in this upgrade. We are, if everyone remember last year, we did have a scary moment in the network where we have a downgraded chain performance and due to the market crumb, and we immediately introduced a short-term fix, but to settle it right when the deal activities actually picks up again. It's important that we don't get ourselves into the same situation. So we are formally like remove the Chrome-based automatic deal settlement to become a manual process, so that we remove more job from system subsidized cron jobs. The next one, it's a long time coming. I know a lot of community members are very excited about that. We're introducing direct data onboarding. If you haven't heard me talking about that enough, it's a way, it's a new data onboarding way where you can put data directly into a sector and you get to choose what kind of the storage market you want to participate in. For example, like you can say you want to assign data cap allowance to the data, you can do that. If you still want to participate in F05, you can do that. And hopefully in the next upgrade, if we add notification into the DDO, I'm calling it DDO Plus. In that way, if you want to participate L2 storage market, you can also do so. This is like, it's always been our priority since FEM launched to move more operations from L1 to L2. And this is like a groundbreaking changes that we're introducing that really bring us to the L2 storage market. And that's why I'm very excited about this. We have a channel for discussing about the implementation and testing on that. It's called Field Direct Data Onboarding in the Filecoin Slack. If you have any questions on how to integrate that, how to use it in Lotus Miner or Boost, do ping us. A couple ecosystem tooling like Singularity and Spade are planning to support this flow as well. So anyhow, check it out. In support of direct data onboarding, we are, the Lotus team decided to prioritize adding built-in actor events into the data onboarding related operations. The main reason being that the DDO, one of the side benefit to storage providers is actually reducing a lot of the gas cost for onboarding data, because people doesn't have to send PSD messages anymore to the storage market if they don't want to use that flow. But that also means before all the data onboarded to the Filecoin network, we have a trace of record in the network state, right? It's in a deal, it's in F05, we can all monitoring and getting analytics on that. With the new DDO, that state is gone. How it's going to be captured is via the message parameters sent into the miner actors, which is fine. Like as long as you are syncing the chain, you are able to get all the information from the message. You can replace it. You can get the receipt. You can see the changes. However, that does adding a lot of like friction for tooling partners, especially like analytics and monitoring, who are hoping to trace all the changes in the network when it comes to data activities. And therefore, we started to adding like events into the built-in actors. What that gives you is like when a certain actions happens during the execution of the message, event will be fired in the network and being announced to the node who are subscribing to the titles. In that way, they can get all the information they need. For example, we're including PC IDs or the miner IDs, so that you can get more info. So you have the key information from the event index, then you can use that index to get the state from the actors later. This is very important. It resolves a lot of effort that Starboard block explorers are facing. That's why we're working on it. So last week, this FIP moved to last call this Monday, and there was one pending unresolved requirement. Last Friday was to get gas cost of how much firing this event is going to take, because we want to make sure not only we're providing convenience to the ecosystem tooling, however, we are also not adding too much operational cost to the users of this method. And good news is that Arsh from our team just got the gas number for firing this event. they are very neglectable. It's almost like under 0.007 something additional gas to certain operations. So it's not adding a lot of cost to the users as well. So that is our last missing piece to the FIP, and the FIP is currently still during last call. Feedback is welcome. And if everything goes well, I think the FIP can be passing last call and getting to accept it, and then we can ship in NV22. So I have 1 more minute left. So the timeline, all the FIPs are moved to last call. Call freeze is January the 30th. We are aiming March the 18th to launch on mainnet, and I believe Lucky adjusted calibration and the overall timeline just to make sure that we don't overlap with the Chinese New Year, where Venus team and the community members are having well-deserved like holiday times with their loved ones. And yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you all so much. If you have questions regarding the NV22, I'll also reference the link when I share the materials. You can ask your questions and drop your comments. Otherwise, I just want to thank you all for joining today's call, and enjoy the rest of your day, your evening, your morning, whatever time it is. Bye.